Welcome to the True Life Balance Podcast. My name is Brad Lancaster.
And my name is Tiffany Lancaster. And this is a podcast about relationships and deep connection.
And this is a podcast about health and fitness.
And this is a podcast about consciousness and purpose.
And this is a podcast about business, sales, marketing, entrepreneurship. In other words, it's a podcast about everything that we care about. So come along for the ride and hope you enjoy. Well, here we are.
Yes.
Not sure what episode number we're on.
I think it's 11.
11.
Yeah.
Ooh, episode 11. Significant number there. You know, we didn't celebrate episode number 7.
I know.
I got off track.
It was the wrong one.
Yeah, I got the wrong episodes. Today we're excited. I'm excited anyway. Are you excited?
I am excited.
Are you excited? Yeah. I'm excited because we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. But it's hard for me to talk about anything without wrapping in themes of consciousness and the idea of this journey of consciousness along the way. But what we want to talk about is like keys to success as a couple, and being
in business together.
Yeah. Yeah. And while, you know, we've, talked about this a lot together, this is one of the key things that it matters a lot to us. And so like, I kind of wanted us to just kind of not go from the cuff because we've got lots of different ideas, but without notes, allowing our intuition and our authentic selves to show up here.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, I know we've talked about it some on the podcast, but we haven't really gotten into a whole lot of detail about what it is that we actually even do.
Right. Our business.
Yeah.
We just come in here and talk about stuff.
So I wanted to let those who don't know what we do, know what we do.
Sure.
So I'm a broker, real estate agent, and we run several businesses together. So we have a brokerage that's True Agency Real Estate. We actually just opened up a property management company as well, True Agency Property Management. We have a construction company that Brad mostly runs called True Homes and Construction. And then we have several other entities, one in which we own rental properties, and another that we buy investment properties with. And I would say one of the main focuses of our business is we buy and sell real estate.
Yeah. So we focus on value add properties, right? Where, which most people call fix and flip or remodels. But it's not just fix and flips. It can be anything, from an investment strategy. And how did we end up in this space?
So we ended up here. Brad and I met each other working at a bar. I think we've told that story. We were both we were both going through a divorce and both just rebuilding new lives together.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Brad was actually just leaving the real estate industry, because this was just after the 2008 crash. And I think most of you know that story. And I had actually been pondering quite a bit, getting a real estate license.
Right. This was in 2010.
Correct. And so Brad and I got together and, you know, he was kind of traumatized from the industry, but he had some friends that came back to him. I think we told the story with Jimmy, right? That Jimmy wanted to get to work with Brad in this space, go into foreclosure sales. And I had brought it up to Brad that I wanted to get my real estate license. So we did it really quickly. I went through real estate school about as fast as anyone can possibly go through real estate school. I think I was started and finished in about 6 weeks. Got my real estate license, and that's how we got started.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that time I was going to foreclosure sales. and we were partnering with other investors. That's how we got started, using other people's money.
So we became really familiar with the whole foreclosure process. I was helping Brad. We were developing systems on how to buy foreclosures, and it started with tracking the foreclosures. Before they become noticed for a foreclosure sale, they actually are noticed for what's called a notice of default, which is public records. So we started tracking those down, and our business quickly developed into like, how can we help these people not lose their home?
Right.
That there's no reason for us to try to compete with other investors at the foreclosure sale. You know, we can save these people's credit. We can possibly even get them cash in their pocket. So that became a focus for us.
Right. And it became quickly apparent to us, and has been one of the biggest, one of the biggest keys, and I would say is one of the biggest keys for couples that want to work together. We had to figure out who was doing what
right
early on. Like down to like who's doing the bookkeeping, who's ordering materials, who's picking up materials, who's leading the crew, who's listing the property. A lot of that was easy because you were a real estate agent and I wasn't.
Right.
And so I wasn't able to.
Duties where you had to be a licensed real estate agent, for instance, if we were helping somebody by simply listing their house, then that was kind of a given. If they, a lot of times those people in those situations couldn't necessarily buy again right away.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And so it became really easy. And then you stood out really quick. You started plugging into, cause our real estate flip business there wasn't enough of it, and we didn't have enough access to money to make that our only business. So you became a regular real estate agent, and you got trained on taking listings and working with buyers, and you excelled at it. Between like 2013 to like 2018, you were one of the top agents in Tooele County every year.
Yeah.
Selling on average 40 or more homes, right?
Yeah. I would say between I think one of my best years was like 60 some.
Yeah. 60 something houses. So, and that included our flip houses, but, especially during the heyday, our flip business was a fraction of what your regular business was, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I figured out is that if I was going to run a decent business, I had to put in the work, and make those phone calls and run it like a business, which is not an easy thing to do. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to people, enjoyed helping people. And
yeah. And all along the way, while we were doing that, one of the struggles we have is like, one of the discussions you and I have is we think, wow, we should be further along than we are. We can get into that, into that talk, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm
sure nobody else does that. Probably just us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be easy to get into comparison, right? Like why am I not making, $2 million or, even just 1 million in my real estate business, and why haven't I gotten to this point yet? And I had this realization just the other day, actually, that one of the things that I think we have been good at is building a really good, solid foundation for not just our brokerage, but our business, putting solid systems in place so that we can, when we build the house and put, all the 2x4s on our foundation, it's going to be really solid.
Well, the other thing was, and I don't know if we addressed this, like right now. Remember back when we started, like I started kind of going into my workaholic mode a few different times, and was working a lot. And you on multiple occasions said, I am not willing to sacrifice everything to make a bunch of money. Right. And I'm not saying that you can't have it all. In fact, we think you can have it all. Right. But there are priorities.
It's a balanced life.
Yeah. Well, it's the balance and the counterbalance, right?
Well, that's what balance is. And we've explained that before.
But it's important to always say that, because anytime we talk about balance, it's not that everything's getting done at the same time. It's you focus on one thing, nail that, and then turn your focus to another area.
But you always have your non-negotiables. And for us, our kids were always our non-negotiables. Like every other weekend when we had your kids and our kids, like we happened to have our kids on the same weekends, initially. And they were a non-negotiable. Like when we had our kids, we weren't going to be out working on houses. I mean, I would go on a listing appointment every now and again. We
lost relationships with partners because we had a partner that expected that we would work, that from the moment we bought a house with them, that we would work every day until the property was finished and listed and sold. Right. And that was an unspoken expectation. We didn't find out about that expectation until we got down the road with him. And when, weekends would come and it would be my weekend to be with my kids, and he would ask me, where are you this weekend? Why aren't you working on the house? And because at that time I was doing a lot of the work myself, and I'd say, well,
you were coaching too.
Yeah. I'm coaching my son's football game. I've got to pick my kids up, and it costs us relationships, but
it strengthened the relationship with our kids. Like I feel like we have such a great relationship with all of our kids.
Well, and I can't even tell you where that guy lives now. I mean, I think I know where he lives, and I know he doesn't have a relationship with his kids.
Right.
He went through a really nasty divorce because he was so mean to his wife, and we have a great relationship with our kids. So I don't. That kind of goes to that point that we talked about a couple of weeks ago and a couple podcasts ago, where if, as you're picking gurus or mentors, you better make sure they're living the life that you want to live.
Right.
And it became really apparent to us, and we weren't even we hadn't identified that principle, but we knew we're not interested in living that guy's life, even though he had a lot more money than us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like he would write checks, big checks all the time. Like he would buy houses for cash, but I didn't care.
That thing that we always talk about, like money does not necessarily equal happiness. There are, if there's enough money and you give enough money away, and, money can make a lot of problems go away. It can help you live a great life. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily one of those things that really create happiness,
Well, and it means different things to different people.
Right.
So, and our level of risk, our level of what success is our level.
Right.
So everybody and you as a couple working together, you get to set what your limits are. That's one of the cool things about being an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and they think they have different expectations. But one of the cool things for me about being an entrepreneur and being self-employed is that I get to set what the expectations are. I get to set what the standards are.
Right.
Nobody tells me, hey, these are the standards for what success is. Like, you have to have year-over-year growth of 12 to 15%, and you have to generate X number of dollars in sales, and you have to generate X number of dollars in equity growth. Nobody gets to tell me that. We get to decide that together. So we can decide, hey, maybe things aren't going great, but from where we're at, it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to mention too that we had not only our non-negotiables for our, family and boundaries where family were concerned. We had non-negotiables in business, because there are things that we did that were just things that we knew we had to do for business. And one of those things was like answering my phone.
Right.
Even when I was on vacation.
Yeah.
I think of the number, we do take amazing vacations. But one thing that I would always do is answer my phone, because I never knew when that phone call was going to mean, a $12,000 to $15,000 commission check. And it felt like, every single time we were on vacation, I would get one of those phone calls and close that lead on the phone while we were on a beach somewhere in Hawaii.
And at the Derby.
At the Derby, it didn't matter where it was. I would answer my phone. And so I think that that's part of it. When we talk about living a balanced life, it's, it's not just this time period from 9 to 5. And especially as an entrepreneur, like it's deciding what the tasks are or what the things are. Like, so even though, we would spend time with our kids and we'd be very intentional, and when we were spending time with them, it was about the quality of time that we were spending with them. But if I had to take a 15-minute phone call, I had to take that 15-minute phone call.
Yeah.
And that would be, that would be the only thing that would interrupt our time. But I mean, it didn't really interfere, it was.
Well, you did. So this is one thing I'd like to clarify about that, because while that was like you taking lead calls, right?
Right.
You did set up boundaries with your clients.
Oh, right.
And say, I'm going to be unavailable
Absolutely.
during these times. I'm going to be out of town. You would set up rules, and we still do. Like we set up expectations with our clients. And whether it's if we're remodeling a house now or whatever the thing is, we get to set
we set those hours.
We set those expectations, and when we will perform and when we're going out of town. So it's not like, because one of the things I see realtors doing is they're answering their clients' calls all the time. Like they're working with a buyer and the buyer wants to go see a house, and the client, the real estate agent is camping.
Right.
And, I mean, because we've seen this happen, right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen agents leave their campsite to come down out of the mountains to go show 2 or 3 houses, and the client ends up not writing an offer.
Right.
That is not balance.
No, it's not.
So like there's a difference between taking a phone call for a lead call and scheduling an appointment, setting up the expectation, versus answering your phone call and doing whatever people want, whenever you want, however you want.
And not having boundaries. Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point.
So how did you do it with your clients? I know how you did it, but explain how you did it.
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's just communication and setting up the expectations. Clients understand when you're going out of town, and if they don't, they're a jerk, but it's just communicating with clients. Clients are, they should be like, they're normal people, they're reasonable people. And so of course, yes, that's a great point. Setting up those expectations with whether it's subs or, clients that you're working with. And,
well, I think one of our mentors taught us early on, and it's a rule that I teach over and over and over again. Really, we have 3 rules of engagement when working with people, right? We only work with nice, smart, sane people. So if you're mean, we're not going to work with you. And if it's not that if you get mean, we're not going to work with you. It's that if you are repetitively mean, you're demeaning, you're constantly questioning, our integrity or our intentions, or like just being mean, saying mean stuff.
Right.
We're not going to work with you. Like we will. And I don't care if you're a client. I don't care if you're a partner. If you're mean, we're not going to work with you.
Right.
If you are not intelligent, and that can come off as that might sound mean, but look, if you're dumb, and there are dumb people out there, there's only so much you can do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Some examples of dumb people are, the thing that comes to mind are the clients that do things after you've told them not to do them. Like when you're working with buyers and you tell them, look, now you're under contract, don't go to RC Willey and get a credit card for a washer and dryer. So they go to Sears and get a credit card for a washer and dryer because we've seen that happen before, right? Well, you said don't go to RC Willey, so I went to Sears. Well, no, the idea is you don't go anywhere and get credit. So you're not very bright. I can't work with that. And the other thing that the final piece is the crazy part. And those are people that, wait, no, did I mess that up? Smart,
sane,
and nice. Oh, we said honest. It was more honest. What did I mess up? It's sane, honest,
nice,
and nice.
Saying honest and nice. It's not dumb.
It's not dumb. Yeah. Saying honest and nice.
Or smart. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah. It's not smart, but you better be smart too. But that goes into the crazy category. So it's, boy, I really nailed that one, didn't I? These are 3 principles we always live by, and then I forget what they are. Saying honest and nice.
Yeah.
Saying honest and nice. Anyway, so saying honest, nice. And if a client doesn't fit within those categories, so saying is one of the ones that's, you see crazy all the time in the world, don't you?
You do. Yeah.
What are some of the ways crazy shows up for real estate agents and people in our industry?
Oh boy. Well, I think it's probably why you confused it for dumb. It's when, the way that it shows up is when, you're trying to explain a concept to them about how to get the highest price for their house. And, they are
unreasonable
and they think that they know better than you.
Right.
And they're, not wanting to take the advice of a professional and do things their way and, or are unhinged, right? Like
right.
Emotionally charged and
lose their shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the smallest thing.
Right.
Well, and like a sane person doesn't call you at all hours of the night.
Yeah. And I will, kind of just preface that with like, it is an emotionally charging thing to buy and sell a house. Like that is one thing that I've figured out in this career is like people get really stressed out. It's and it's understandably so. You're making one of the biggest financial decisions that you're ever going to make in your life. Most likely, right? That's the biggest financial decision that most people ever make is purchasing or selling a home.
Right.
And you're uprooting your entire world and moving it. That's right. Stressful, especially if you're going to another state and not necessarily even if you're only moving to another state. It's a very, very stressful thing. And so I think one of my strengths and what makes me good at my job or has made me really good at my job is being able to be that calm in the storm for people. So,
right.
And I wouldn't say that everybody that is stressed out during a real estate transaction is not sane. Because that's part of it, but
right. It is a stressful thing.
It is a very stressful thing. And I think a lot of times they just need to feel confident that somebody's got it, that somebody's helping them navigate this. And sometimes they just need to be heard and reassured. And that's one thing that like my clients have always complimented me on is like, they feel comfortable with me, like I've got you, where like everything is going to be okay. And so I just want to make sure that there's always a caveat to everything. Right. And
yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's the yes and the yes. Yeah. Two sides of the same coin.
Right. But I would say the insane, because I've definitely worked with those type and definitely had to fire people too that were just like verbally abusive. And that's,
Fire a client.
Yeah.
How do you fire a client?
Just say, I think it's best that you find somebody else. This
isn't working
for either one of us.
Yeah. And one of the things that made you so confident in being able to fire clients, and I know you do it, and I've seen you do it before, especially to like an active real estate agent. What's one of the things? I think the most critical thing is lead generation.
Yeah.
Like that they're constantly in some kind of lead generation activity.
You're not so desperate that every deal you get, you're, worried that this is going to be one of the, 5, 6, 7 deals that you do all year long. The more you have in the pipeline, the more confidence you have of controlling your pipeline, the more confident you can feel in like making those decisions to protect your sanity, to protect you, to protect your energy, because that's going to be the most important thing that you can offer your clients. Like they need you to be whole. And if you are being depleted by an abusive client and you're being worn out and they're not respecting your boundaries and they're not, making you feel guilty for taking a vacation with your family. I mean, obviously, if you're going on vacation, here's the one thing I will say. Make sure that you have someone else taking care of your business. If you're not going to be available, don't just like say, oh, I'm not going to be here and neither is anyone else. that's not okay.
Yeah, which is the benefit of being on a team or having a partner in the
I've
business,
used
right?
other people in my brokerages or my broker before,
Right.
when I've not had team members to just exchange phone numbers,
Right. Give them a quick breakdown on what's going on.
Right.
One of the things that we figured out, and it came from my history in real estate, being a real estate agent for over a decade, was that until you're making enough money to like be really comfortable, there's one key activity that everybody has to be engaged in, and that's lead generation. Yep. I talked about lead generation, and I think it's one of the things that I see couples that start businesses together. I see them flunk out on this so hard. And I don't care if it's a restaurant that you've decided to open, a food truck, a lawn care business, concrete business. It doesn't matter what the business is. If you don't have enough leads to like more than take care of your immediate needs, your business, your financial needs, neither one of the partners has any other job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things, I think that's one of the things you and I nailed right from the start, is that we were going to be partners. It wasn't going to be, I'm the boss and you work for me, or you're the boss and I work for you. We were going to be partners. We've refined that as we've gone along, and we've both taken on different roles, especially as we started to grow a business and get employees, because one of us then had to take on the CEO hat. One of us had to take on the chief financial officer hat. We had to take on different hats, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're starting a business with your partner, you are both responsible for your pipeline. You are both responsible for lead generation activities. So if you are one of the people that says, "Oh, I can't do sales," do you think that kind of a person should like legitimately be an entrepreneur? What do you think?
Well, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of lead generation stuff like online, but I think you still need to be able to close a deal. Like, when you get a phone call, there's a certain, and I think that I think the reason why people say I can't do sales is because there's a lack of understanding of what sales actually is.
Talk about that. What do you mean?
So, sales, the way that because I've struggled with this myself, saying I'm not this salesy type person. But what I've come to figure out over the years is sales is simply communicating with people, learning how to communicate with someone so that you can understand what their needs are. You can understand what the problem is, and then you can paint the picture of what the solution is for them. And it's really just navigating that. And in a lot of ways, it's being a teacher. It's learning how to communicate. It's a set of skills that help you communicate and get to the root of what this person's needs and wants are and deliver.
Yeah, we were talking about that with our kids just a couple of days ago. Because we've got a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old, and they're both working with us in our business, filling different functions. And I want everybody in our business to understand that our first job always is lead generation. It's still the case for us, right? That team members need to be generating leads, need to be bringing business in, right? Mm-hmm. And the best way to do that is through effective communication skills. And there's probably no better communication skill. When I've heard it so many ways, but the number one skill that I've seen great salespeople have is their ability to listen.
Yep.
That's Absolutely. One of your great skills. So when people say,
like, truly listen, not just listening to figure out what your next response is going to be. It's truly listening, watching for cues as to what it is that because here's the other problem is, it's not that people lie. It's that people just a lot of times won't come. They don't know a lot of times what it is that they really need. And sometimes they don't even really know what they want. So it's learning how to uncover that.
Yeah, but inherently, human beings are first protective of themselves, right? They're going to protect their own ego. They're going to protect their own, we all do it, right?
Right.
Anybody that walks onto a car lot, you're on a car lot and a car guy asks you, a question like, how can I help you? Most people say, I'm just looking.
Right.
Right. But nobody goes onto a car lot to look at cars. At least not today. Most people go onto car lots because they've probably already spent a lot of time investigating what car they want to buy online. And they're going to that car lot to try to find somebody so that they can talk with. So an effective salesperson will simply ask questions to get them, great. You're out looking, just looking at cars. Is there any type of car that you're looking for? Or is it a truck? Is it a van? What kind of thing are you looking for today? Rather than the salesman that says, oh, you're looking for a car? I got a great one right over here. It's a white Honda Civic. I think it'll be perfect for you. I mean, that would be a terrible sales tactic, right? And in real estate, a terrible sales tactic would be, if somebody called up, well, I'm curious about a house that's for sale. That one's not available. I got another one. You want to look at it? So communication skills become really key. And I really think, because I've seen so many different entrepreneurship couples that get into business together, the more time you can focus on learning sales skills together, it gets really fun. It's one of our favorite things to talk about is sales and psychology of sales, and because it relates to so many different things in our life, even our path of our themes of consciousness that we've been focusing on lately through our yoga teacher training and that journey that we've been on, it still has to do with a lot of communication and a lot of listening. Right. Like the old saying, you have two ears and one mouth. Maybe listen twice as much as you speak. Right.
It helps you with your relationship. Those same sales tactics, help you in relationships, not only with your spouse, but like I feel like with our kids, being able to listen and communicate with each other and understand what the common goal is here. Like, how can I help you get what you need is so important. And it's I think if more people had this skill, the world would be a better place. Yeah. I really believe that.
Well, and especially business owners, small business owners.
Right.
We've had another mentor explain it to us that, look, do you really believe that you are the best solution for your client? And to business owners and small business owners, especially people just getting started out, do you really believe you're the best solution? If you don't believe it, fix that first. Like figure out what you can do to be the best solution for that client. But once you believe that, then think about what that means if they don't use you. Think about what that means if they don't hire you. So many different examples, but in today's market, in today's real estate market, like if you don't hire the right real estate agent, it could mean losing thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. And by the way, that's not just today's real estate market, right? That's any real estate market. Hiring the right real estate agent is that critical.
Right.
Because have we seen agents cost their clients lots of money?
For sure.
Yeah. Whether it's forgetting to negotiate a refrigerator or a home warranty, or it could be something as big as like where property lines are, key elements of the transaction.
Listing it wrong on the MLS.
Putting the wrong information in.
Yeah. There's lots of things. Accepting the very first offer that comes through, and then, you've gone under contract and then you get an offer for $50,000 more the next day or could have.
Yeah.
Lots of different things, lots of pitfalls out there that can be avoided that a lot of real estate agents aren't even aware of and aren't doing the work to become aware of them either. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I wanted to touch on what do you think are the things that have gotten us through because a lot of people ask me, one of the most common questions that I get is, how do you work with your spouse? How can you stand to be around your spouse all day? And like, you know, how can you work together? And it is a fair question, because it is difficult. It's a difficult thing because, you know, you have your issues and stuff come up that are just typical things in a relationship. But now when you're running a business together, you take all of the issues with the business and all of the things that are going wrong and all of the things that are going right and all of the disagreements that go along with that. Like, I want to talk about that a little bit. And then all of a sudden the worlds become blended, right?
Yeah.
There have definitely been times that we have, you know, I've said, like, I want to just spend quality time with you. I haven't seen you. And you've said things like, what do you mean you haven't seen me? Like, we've been working together all week.
Yeah.
Like, and I've like responded with, no, like, we haven't had a conversation not about work all week. You've been a partner, a coworker, whatever you want to call it, all week. But I haven't had a romantic partner all week. I haven't sat and connected with you in that way, you know? So I think that's a common struggle that's like not talked about often enough.
I think so too. Yeah. And, well, I think, one thing that's been a key to success for us in maintaining a healthy relationship, and we have a really healthy relationship, especially where work and, it's like the thing I'm most proud of is our relationship. It's the number one key to success for me. And, so like, I think that first is that your relationship better be the most important thing that you have going on.
Yeah. And because it's going to put some strain. If you're going to go into business with a partner, it is going to strain your relationship. I don't think
a romantic partner. Yeah. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And we signed up for it and we made the decision together. And we knew that, right? We knew it was going to be hard. And so we made that commitment together. A couple things came to mind when you started going there. Like when people say, how can you work with your partner? Number one, and like, this isn't just, like, you're my favorite person to be with in the whole world. I have other friends and I have other people that I enjoy talking with, but there is nobody that I can confide in about everything like I can with you. And so why wouldn't I want to be with you every waking moment? And
I felt the same way too.
Yeah. And so, I mean, is it always that way? No, there are times when we get frustrated with each other and
for sure.
And in those moments, it becomes like a perspective thing. And that's where themes of consciousness comes in. It forces
us to do the work is what it does. Because we have this business to run regardless. We have these responsibilities that need to be taken care of regardless. And
that nobody forced us into. Right. Like, we made the choice. Right. This is what we're going to do.
And we can't let our own shit like get in the way.
Right.
And so, but I think we've been really good at that. And I don't know, you know, the thing that we've been good at is just communicating about anything and everything.
Yeah.
As often as possible.
Yeah. As much as possible.
The hard things, the easy things, all of it.
A couple things I wanted to bring up in this because there's going to be hard shit. And when you're working with your partner, you will frequently have a mirror held up to your issues. So your partner can become your number one source, and especially if it's your romantic partner and your business partner. They will be your number one source of triggers. Like, they will trigger you faster and more deeply than anybody else. And so often, people use that as an excuse to run and hide. And are our kids calling us?
That's Rachel.
We can use that as an excuse to run or hide or just quit and say, I'm being triggered by you. And so that must mean we're not supposed to be together. I think that's one of the biggest lies that a lot of the spiritual community, the New Age community, they teach you that. Or I don't know that they teach you. I haven't heard anybody teaching it, but I've seen people say, well, if those triggers are being present, then it's a sign that you're not meant to be together or some bullshit like that.
Well, yeah, I think it's just society in general. Like that's if you can't just get along, we have this fairy tale idea that when you get into a relationship,
it's they lived happily ever after bullshit.
Exactly. That like, it's just supposed to be perfect.
Yeah. Fairy tale.
And if it's not perfect, if this person is triggering you is the biggest thing, pissing you off. Well, the perfect person for you shouldn't do that. That's the biggest lie.
That's the lie. Yeah. Yeah. Why do you get pissed off in the first place? There's normally some trauma, something within inside of you. Remember, your reaction to external inputs, your reaction is more it's a reflection of what's going on inside of you, not the external input.
Yeah.
And so you and I spend a lot of time doing this work. We acknowledge that when something's coming up, once we can get through the trigger, and there are strategies to use to do that. And sometimes the strategy is just to separate. Right. Not like separate in our relationship, but Tiff, I need 5 minutes because I'm emotionally charged. I need to go and breathe. Right. I mean, that happened as recently as, what was the most recent time that I needed to do that? Was it last week?
Maybe the week prior.
It was last week with the Taylin issue. Oh, okay. That was last Thursday. So, I mean, it happens. Right. And if you remember, I was so in my head about that exchange that went back and forth that I did not, on the trailer, I hooked up the trailer, a big 14-foot enclosed trailer under the back of our truck, and I did not put the latch down on the trailer.
I didn't know that.
I didn't tell you about the pin? Oh, yeah, I did. I told you the pin was gone too. Remember, I had to go to the store to pick up a pin because I drove off and the pin was sitting on the hitch. I took Junior to school and I had forgotten to latch the trailer.
No, I don't think you told me about that. I didn't know about that. That's crazy.
That's how in my head I was about that at that moment. But as I dropped Junior off, I thought, wait, did I latch the trailer? And
we're so lucky.
Well, I was able to get back to my baseline and start thinking. But the reason I couldn't is because I was having this conversation in my head between me and you weren't there about everything you did that pissed me off. Anyway, but what did I do? The strategy I used was, first of all, I latched the trailer and then I went and got a new pin. But after that, then I called you and I had gone through, I'd gone through some mantras, specific mantra. A mantra is a phrase that you use over and over again that changes your energy, basically, right? We also call them affirmations. Right. But this one that I used is, I am loved, I am pure, I am innocent, I am doing the best I can. Because when I get triggered by you, typically, I dive into judgment. I start judging myself and thinking, how could you be so stupid? Why are you such an idiot? Like at my core, that's really once I figure out the anger thing or whatever. And then I called you and I told you, like, I'm not angry anymore. This is how I got out of anger. And this is where I was feeling judgment. And this is where I was feeling trigger. And I can do that. And I can see this because of this part of how I reacted when I was a child or what I was told as a child. And I believed that story and I'm reprogramming a new story now. And my new story is, in that case, it was that I needed to dive deeper into love with Taylin. Yeah. Right. Which is a pretty simple thing. Anyway, I know people are married to people that are not their favorite people. And that is what it is. I'm not saying, no judgment. I just know that if if you can't really look at your spouse and say they are my favorite person, and like ever, maybe don't go into business with them, because it's going to be really hard. And even deeper than that, I would say, why not? Why can't you say that about your spouse? Like at some point they probably were.
Right.
Probably. I mean, not guaranteed. And if they never were, do you think you deserve a relationship where you and your partner are best of friends?
Right.
Do you think you deserve that? And if you don't, why not?
Yeah. Well, and I think it boils down to, you and I have talked about this on the podcast before, but like, I look at you as my partner to get through life with, you know, like
Right.
I totally envision that this world is like a video game and you're like my partner, like you're going to watch my back and make sure that I don't get killed. And I'm going to do the same for you. And we're going to like beat all these boards and we're going to nail it.
Yeah.
All of the boards.
Yeah.
Work, you know, financial success, the home life, all of it. We're going to nail it all. And that's kind of how I look at that's my perspective on that whole thing. And so, and the crazy thing is both you and I, when we got into a new relationship, we talked about wanting to be in business with our partner, like how cool that would be to be able to do that, to like your partner enough, your romantic partner enough to want to like build a business with them, not just build a life with them, like build your whole life with them.
Yeah. And, you know, I was just thinking in my head, I was like, man, are there any professions where you wouldn't want to be partners with your partner? And like I was thinking, what if you're a writer? Like if you're a writer, that's a pretty solo profession, right? Like you write, but your partner can be, they don't have to be a writer, but they can help you.
If you're writing a book, you can write a book together, you can write a book apart. And we've also talked about this before, just because we do have a lot of these parts of our lives that intertwine, it doesn't mean that we don't do our own thing,
right?
Necessarily.
Yeah. There are times when you need to go do one part of the business independent of me,
right?
Or maybe a whole new business,
right,
independent of me, but we're always partners.
Right. Yeah.
I heard this week some great advice from somebody, and they said, you know, happiness in life, really, there are two main decisions that are almost invariably going to determine how happy you are throughout this journey. Those two decisions are the person that you decide to marry or, you know, cohabitate, whatever, with. And the other thing is what profession you decide to work in, because those two things, so the person you marry is the person you're going to spend the most amount of time with. And so you better be really happy with them. And the other thing is like your profession is the thing you're going to spend the most time doing. So you should do something that you kind of enjoy, like,
right,
or maybe really enjoy,
right,
like you can be really interested in.
Yeah.
And so for us, we acknowledged that early on, that number one, that relationship, we thought we nailed it. Like we've always felt like we nailed it, right? There's been very few times where either one of us wondered that. We thought, no, this was sent to us from divinity or from the universe. This was some kind of cosmic bam. And not just from a physical, but from like our souls connect. We are able to, like, you are able to hear me and love me unlike I ever believed possible.
Thanks. I feel the same way.
Yeah. And so we wanted to work together. Well, what are our common interests? What are the things we can work on? It's been real estate for so long and flipping houses. And now we're going down this path of yoga teacher training and healing. We want to help others heal because we've realized how important the healing journey is. Mm-hmm. And we want to assist others in that healing journey. We still don't really know exactly what that looks like. Right now, it's just when people have an opportunity to share their trauma with us, we want to be a safe space, provide
for our employees, for whoever
our
we're
employees.
Just showing up every day, like authentically us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
With all of our tools in our toolbox.
Yeah. So So that kind of comes down to what you were talking about. Like, how do I work with a spouse? Well, number one, are they really your favorite person?
Right.
And if they're not, make them your favorite person. And if you can't do that, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice.
Yeah. And the second one is make sure you enjoy what you're doing. Because there's been times over the last few years that you've said, I just really not enjoying this part of the business anymore. Well, fine. Let's find what part of the business or what part of the experience you do enjoy.
Yeah.
That's more important to us than the dollar amount in the bank.
Right. Yeah, because it's what you talked about. It's the thing that you spend your entire day doing. And if it's not aligning and making you feel this sense of purpose or joy or whatever, then it's affecting your vibe. And if you want to get through life with a high vibe, you need to adjust the thing that you're doing the most throughout the day.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like I'm like so sappy right now because I had this realization just a couple days ago, and I shared it with you, that most likely the most important thing that is going to, because I'm 50 now, and so my perspective is shifted, and I'm now able to see what like 70 and 80 and even 90 is going to look like. I think it's really hard when you're in your 20s and 30s. I think it's really hard to have a perspective of those years. And the people who can are the sages that you should be listening to, because they're out there. Mm-hmm. And, but they're rare. They're the outliers, right? But as you get older, I think it gets a lot easier for all of us to start to understand, like that aging thing. And it's obvious to me as I look at happy, old people, one of the key elements is who they're with.
Yeah.
And, I don't say this like, you see a lot, like to demean single people at all, but you see a lot of really happy married couples.
Yeah.
Seems to
sense of connection.
Sense of connection. Yeah. And, I mean, it might sound silly, but at the core, if you want to be in business with your partner, make them your number one priority, not your business, not your marketing plan. They better be number one.
That's true. I will just add to that I had this realization in just talking to Michelle yesterday. It was kind of a funny conversation that I just want to share. When I was talking to Michelle about you taking over all of the finances stuff in our business and, like replacing you on our KPIs as the COO. And I kind of laughed to myself and explained to Michelle that, and I feel like this has happened several times in our business where I've come to you with a vision or an idea or something, and it was just simply premature. And you were like, no, I'm not feeling that. I don't see that. I don't, whatever, and I have no other choice but to say, okay. And then what typically ends up happening is a few months go by and you say, what would be a really good idea?
That idea you had
what needs to happen
3 months ago.
That thing you were telling me, but you don't say it like that, obviously. And I typically will respond with, that's such a good idea.
Well, but I will say this. I think I have gotten better at saying, that idea you had, that thing you said, you were right about that.
Yes.
And we're going to start implementing that. I'm feeling it. I'm seeing it. I'm understanding it now.
Yeah. And what I'm understanding is it's the whole idea of just meeting your partner where they're at. It's just this journey that we're on, and it doesn't help anybody to force someone. Like, it's almost impossible to force someone to see things or want things the way that you see them or want them.
Yeah.
And so it's really this dance of like, and it's not always that way, obviously. There's lots of times I come to you with an idea and you're like, yeah, great, let's do it.
Right.
But when it's not that way, it's just this process of accepting it and being like, okay. And if it's meant to be, you put it out there. If it's meant to be, like it works, it finds a way to work itself out.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that, like, as we talk about understanding your roles and who's good at what. And one of my strengths is my ability to connect people, right? But I don't spend, or in the past, I haven't spent a lot of time in introspection. I haven't spent a lot of time in creativity. I've always actually considered myself just to give me an idea, give me a good idea, and I'll go 10 plus it, right? And so one of the things that we've been conscious about is, Tiff, you think about the direction. I need you to think about this. I need you to think about, I'm going to bring different ideas, different things, but I need you to think about it. So I've leaned on you for intuition. I've leaned on you for like, the
vision.
Yeah. The vision, the knowing, right? Yeah. And then you've leaned on me. Wow. That's a chakra thing. You've leaned on me for, the solar plexus. That's maybe a little more prevalent in my being, right? Yeah. The fire, let's go.
I've said those exact same things. Like I feel like my strength is, coming up with the vision and then bringing it to you. And I need you to like manifest it for me. You bring it to this,
Yeah.
Bring it to reality.
Right.
Help me bring it to reality.
Right. So and that's been an interesting journey for us to figure that out as well.
Yeah.
Because there have been times where I've definitely had ego responses to that. Where I thought, what do you mean? I have visions.
Well, you do.
Yeah. It's just different. It's a different thing, and it's not better or worse. Anyway, so some of the keys, understanding roles, and then really, gosh, there's so many keys that we've gone over. This has been a great conversation. I'm glad, before we wrap up, is there anything that I did want to say? One thing I wanted to talk about, drug use. We were talking about marijuana and plant-based medicine and other things on the way down here. And, it's so popular, plant medicine, marijuana in the entrepreneur culture nowadays, right? Like everybody smokes, it seems like everybody, I know that's not true, but like, especially, as you intersect entrepreneurship with spirituality, there seems to be a lot of crossover where now you're using marijuana and you're using psilocybin and you're using ayahuasca and those are all great. And we had a discussion with Matt Nash about this in our last podcast, which would be really, I think, worthwhile anybody listening to going back and listening to that portion of the podcast. But I wanted to reiterate because there's a time and a place for everything. One person's medicine can be another one's poison. Mm-hmm. And one person's poison can be another one's medicine. And I just wanted to, like, being an entrepreneur does not mean that, it doesn't mean you get to, it can mean whatever you want it to, but for me, it's a deep responsibility. Because the minute you start hiring people, it becomes like other people's lives that you're dictating. And what marijuana and even psychedelics can be, they can be coping mechanisms that you're using to avoid really tough things for you, darkness or trauma. And I just want to invite all my friends and everybody listening, if you're using psilocybin, if you're using marijuana, if you're using any of the plant-based medicines, it's okay. I just want you to know that, or just consider, are you using it as a way to cope with something that you just don't want to deal with? And I can ask you that question because I have. Doesn't mean you're an addict, doesn't mean you're a bad person, no judgment. I just want, I want you to know that when I stopped using, especially THC, like my ability to deal with hard shit has grown exponentially.
And I think it has a lot to do with the work you've been doing, the inner work you've been doing as well. But yes,
they go hand in hand.
They do.
Because I was able to stop numbing. And by the way, I started using it under like with a prescription, because it's now medically prescribed here in Utah. You can get a prescription, and I was using it for pain for my knee, which, by the way, meant I stopped working on my knee, on the flexibility. And so I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm working on it. Right. But when it comes to those things, we just look past it. A lot of people in our culture are, the entrepreneurship space, self-employed, like we just assume, well, you do what you got to do, and you do. It's okay. And no judgment. I just want to invite you. And also, like, say, if you're wondering what it looks like to not, just talk to me, reach out to me, send me a message. I would love to talk to anybody about it, because I've had such an interesting, beautiful experience of not using.
I feel like it could be like, it's almost like a stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think that, especially with intentional, like if you're going into anything with intention, you're gonna, how do you not use it consciously if you're consciously coming up with an intention for what it is? But what we tend to do, and what Brad is talking about, is I've had a hard day, and you can do it with anything, right? I've had a hard day. I'm going to come home and drink a glass of wine, or I'm going to come home and smoke a bowl, or I'm going to come home and whatever I need to do, or my life just sucks so bad, I need to eat some mushrooms, or whatever the thing is that you're doing because your life sucks, you need to realize that, or because you're too exhausted, because you're an entrepreneur and you're doing so much and you need to relax. Those are all the wrong reasons to be doing it. It's not doing the work. So there is a time and place for incorporating that as part of doing the work.
Right. Because it can be very ritualistic. It can be something that, and the way Matt and Ash talked about, and you and I, it can open the door and show you what you're capable of, but it can also close the door to any real growth. Right. Any real implementation, any real execution of the idea, of the aha. Yeah. It can also do that.
It can. And so it's what we've talked about time and time again. You will get an insight into what you need to incorporate, what changes you need to make, what direction you need to go. It will absolutely do that. And if you do not take that and integrate it into your everyday life, you're missing the point. And it's now become a crutch, and it's now become a coping mechanism that is disabling you.
Yeah. And I want to say to anybody who has felt triggered by what I've said, I want you to know you're loved, you're pure, you're innocent, you're doing the best you can. And repeat that over and over again. I am loved, I'm innocent, I am pure, I'm doing the best I can. And find the healing. And to entrepreneurs, keep going. Like, find people you can confide in. I do want to say, being an entrepreneur is one of the biggest blessings in the world. The fact that we can, that the people that are out there, putting themselves in this arena where you get your head kicked in day after day, and they're just fighting that struggle, getting up and doing it again, and not depending on someone else writing them a paycheck. Kudos to you, absolutely. Because it is so fucking hard. Yeah. And there are so many times that we have said ourselves, maybe we should just go get a job. This is so hard. But then you just keep going. You just get up. And there comes a point when you get up. I mean, we always say, right, failure is just part of success. It's just getting up over and over and over. But there does come a point where you look around and life is beautiful, and you've created this amazing thing, and you are literally designing your own life. Yeah.
And that is what is so beautiful about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And it's not for everybody. And if you're not an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you're any less of a person.
But if you're wanting to be.
Yeah. If you're wanting to be, and you think you've got it within you,
do it.
Do it. And even if doing it means getting a book and starting to read about what your plan is, do something, take one step. Start moving in that direction.
Yeah, don't just quit your day job, because I think that a lot of people get that wrong, right? Like if you just quit your day job and go start being an entrepreneur, like you've got to make sure your basic needs are taken care of. You've got to pay your bills, but start moving in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you do something to start moving in that direction. It's possible for anybody and everybody to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at an hour or beyond.
Yes.
So let's wrap this one up. Any final thoughts? That was a great final thought.
That was my final thought.
Yeah. And my final thoughts would be, say, if you want to be an entrepreneur and do it with your partner, your spouse, your life mate, there's no better way to do it, in my opinion. And it's worth it too. And it's brought us so much. It's brought us so much closer together. And I'm really grateful for it. And I'm grateful that you keep letting me work with you.
I'm grateful for that too.
Love you, sweetheart.
I love you too.
Okay. See you guys next time.
Bye. Have a great day. This podcast was brought to you by True Agency Real Estate. If you want to check us out, our website is www.utahtrueagency.com, and we are also on all of the socials.